guess I wanted to start with an easy, not easy question, which would be, what keeps you up at night? No? What is the one thing?
While at the university, like I just mentioned, there was a bug that bit me, and I was fortunate enough to find a mentor and fall into an environment, which was the university at that time, that set me on this professional journey that I'm on. And I looked around and I was looking at all the various other students. In that environment, I had no idea, or at least before that environment, I had no idea with regards to the untapped potential that existed within me. And there weren't many deliberate environments like that in Guyana to really engage the talented youth. So many of them would have gone through the university-run programs, never knowing what they can truly deliver to society. So effectively, what kept me up at night is figuring out a way in which we can create environments to activate the talent. And that's driven much of my work in the industry.
Other than drinking coffee after 5 o'clock, what keeps me awake at night is probably trying to figure out how we build an organization that is borderless, in a sense. Government regulations, all government entities recognize their borders, and those are useful, but it's really difficult, especially with the younger Gen Z, millennial people we're hiring. They don't think about themselves in terms of borders when it comes to paychecks, or, and the regulatory overhead can be really large if we're hiring people in other countries and we want to have entities there. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how do we create kind of the flat earth, especially in the digital economy. But we have a significant number of employees who want paid purely in crypto, for example. They want to be like off the network, so to speak. So I don't know that it keeps me awake at night, but it keeps me thinking about it, because I think there's something to that, and the future's coming at us whether we like it or not. So that's what I think a lot about that a lot.
So I think in terms of keeping up at night, metaphorically, you're either up because you're excited or because you're scared. And excited, it's just the new, what we get to experience that changed in our life compared to the average human life is exponentially greater. It's like, I joke with my 16-year-old, you were born before the iPhone. It's crazy how much has changed. So New Music Friday, for example, brings me so much happiness. Spotify's release radar, like so many new artists, and the exchange of ideas, that stuff is so exciting. So, and then, the rest of the world is so scary that I'll say that I think that it took me a while to learn to sleep at night. As a borderline insomniac since 18 and entrepreneurial parents, I think that one thing that has allowed me to have a healthier culture in my own company is actually sleeping, and having everyone else know it's okay to sleep.
What are the motivations and objectives of New Wave Entrepreneurs, now that you were talking about what excites you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's extremely hard to define, because what's happening to us because of the nature of information is it's fragmented, right? So you have people who absolutely adore Trump and who absolutely hate Trump, and we're getting fragmented and polarized to a point where it is very hard to make any generalizations about a next generation when you think of age. But I think if you think of next generation as it relates to change, there will still be people who wake up conservative and have conservative kids that hold on to the values from the 1800s. But what we are seeing right now is a tremendous change in this new generation. Could be someone who, along with lots of problems of discrimination, there's ageism that happens too. And I think it happens that young thinkers, we tend to see a 16-year-old and think that that must be a young thinker and not the 60-year-old. But actually, that's not really the world as it is now. So I think the really interesting new generation are working on making the world a better place. They are aware of how short life is, and they are determined to work on something that gives a sense of purpose and meaning, and in a way that makes them feel good about how they work with each other, because the 99% of options they have in careers are to work in toxic environments, doing things that they don't believe in. And the next generation is breaking away from that, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I'm not sure everything she said I agree with, but the younger employee, our employees are predominantly under 30. So, and I'm not. So I'm 58. So ageism there. But when I was under 30 and starting out, it was, someone mentioned the sense of entitlement that young people have. We were talking about this out in the hall. And I'm like, of course they come in with a sense of entitlement. I had a sense of entitlement when I got out of the University of Michigan. I went to work. Damn right I had a sense of entitlement. I was young and strong and smart and full of myself and all that sort of stuff. It's the same attitude, but they express it differently. And they express it in a lot of ways, I think, more elegantly, because they are, as Andrea pointed out there, they're more interested in making the world a better place. We hear that all the time. You know, I want to know that I'm making the world a better place, or I'm making my community a better place. Eldon and I are both working in countries that are, well, I can't speak for you, but they're developing, disadvantaged, frankly. And it's shameful that the best opportunity for the smartest and most brilliant people in the country, their best opportunity is to leave. That's a horrible outcome. It's a repellent outcome. And so it's a death spiral. So they want to have a reason not to leave. And that's a pretty compelling value proposition. They're like, hey, I don't need to make the most money at this job, but I need to be treated with dignity and as a professional and as an equal. And I have to have autonomy and purpose in what I do, and then I'll stay. And if they stay, then it's the pebble in the pond, right? Those ripples go out, and we keep people in place, and they can participate, especially in the digital economy. They can participate from anywhere they are in the world.
I think definitely the key word is purpose. And much of the persons that came through the initial version of the company and then what it evolved to, they were all in search of what value they can deliver based on the talents that they had. And some of them didn't even know their talents. So it's a part of creating an environment to help them to discover themselves professionally. That's critical. But in that process, you create an environment and a culture that helps them to identify their purpose and to identify that their place in the world. It's meaningful. There is meaning with regards to every single day they come into work and everything that they do, and that goes a very, very long way.
I would recommend to anyone here, if you want to think about purpose-driven companies, and there was a book written, it's probably 10 years old now, by Daniel Pink called Drive. And it's a quick weekend read, but it's a really powerful analysis of what motivates people to do their best work. And it does come down to the three values that I just mentioned, which is mastery, autonomy, and purpose. But no matter how you go about conducting your work, whether you have an office or no office, you're global or you're nearshore or you're intergalactic, I suppose, it's a good stimulating read on how individuals are motivated, and I see the purpose thing just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger as the next generation of workers come into the market.
How does the attraction and then the retention of these people work? How does it work? And also being as you are in 3 different hubs. No?
What we've experienced being a purpose-driven company, and we do that through our brand, and much of what work the nonprofit does is that we've been pulling talented persons towards us from other firms and so forth, and I find that's also a documented dynamic where purpose-driven companies are able to attract high-quality talent, and they're able to retain that talent longer. As a result, they grow 50% more than profit-driven companies. And I feel that there's also a statistic in terms of consumers, 75% of consumers preferring brands that are more purpose-driven as opposed to profit-driven brands. So within the context of Guyana, even though, again, we're a developing nation, we've personally experienced doing tech in a purposeful manner, social impact-led manner, and that has inspired a lot of talented individuals to come to us and ask if there are any openings. So as a result, when we built the company, we hardly offered or opened any vacancies. Individuals they would just stream in, say, I'd like to be a part of this. I like what you're doing. And then we'd intern them, and then eventually they go through an apprenticeship program and fall into the ranks.
That's cool. She said something interesting where it was they look for people who want to work remotely. And I was listening, and I think there's some confirmation bias in the hiring process and the retention process because, yeah, we do have a high retention rate. And I'm gonna suggest something that I don't know, maybe not everyone agrees with. Purpose-driven companies, whatever their purpose may be, and you don't have to agree with it, but the people at the core of that company are extremely genuine about what they believe. And I think our keynote speaker talked about authentic messages. And it's easier to sustain and reinforce that authenticity when you're purpose-driven than when you're, say, a little more corporate or profit-motivated driven. I mean, and so you get this confirmation bias. The people who go to work for him or go to work for her or go to work for me have been hearing about the purpose since the moment they applied. It might even be the reason that they applied. So the Kool-Aid gets thicker, if you will, the more you grow. And I think a lot of that's just because it's easy to sort of say, I don't get it. And then I tell people, if you don't get it, then this might not be the right place for you because we get it a lot. It's really important to us. And so you get that positive feedback loop. And yeah, it helps with retention a lot.